Hello, my friends. It's Stacy of Stacy Creates Stuff. Remember me? I know it's been a while, over a month since I last posted a video, and I think about 3 months since I did a vlog. So today we're going to catch up on all the things I've been making since my last vlog. I posted a vlog number 30 back at the beginning of August, and I had just finished up my woven ribbons quilt, and shortly after the vlog came out, a tutorial came out. So since that vlog, I have made a bunch of things. Some of them were very simple and some were a little more complicated. Coming out of summer, where I had worked on several more complex projects, I decided to simplify things going into September. As a matter of fact, I dubbed September, Keep It Simple September. So here are the things that I made. Interwoven is a great quilt that you can whip up with just 18 fat quarters. Or, of course, you can use quarter yards of fabric, and it's pretty simple. It's squares, and it's strips sewn together and cut into squares. Yes, it's that simple. And if you want the pattern, I will put the link below. You simply join my mailing list and you can get that pattern for free. If you are interested in a kit using those same colors that I used in my quilt, that is available from my favorite quilt shop, Vintage Pink and Green. I will also link that in the description below. As a matter of fact, so that I don't keep repeating in the description below, any of the quilt kits or patterns where available, I will link in the description below. Not all the quilt patterns are available. Some of them are only included in the kit, but for the most part, they are either available free from my website or from other websites like Tilda. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that in July, I did a whole Jolly in July series with my friend Lauren of Garden Girl Studio. And one of the quilts that I did there was a little wall hanging with ornaments. Now, I did it in sort of Miami colors with pink and turquoise on a white background. And I wanted to make a version that was a little more complex, but still pretty much kept the same idea. And so I made a quilt that did just that. And it was a short little wall hanging. I have not yet quilted that one. Pretty much everything else that I will be talking about today, I have completed. So still need to quilt that particular one. Now we're going to be circling back to the Ornaments quilt in just a little bit. The next project was one that I put together the kit, and the kits are available at Vintage Pink and Green, and that is Whimsy. And this is a Tilda fabrics pattern. It's available free on her website. It was originally done with a different collection of fabric that is no longer available. But I looked at that pattern and I thought, that would be so fun to do in Bloomsville. And we had some of that at the shop. So I put together a kit and my friend Jane made the sample and then I quilted it. So even though I didn't make this one, I did quilt it and I did curate the fabric. It's another very simple quilt to do. There are, I believe, 4 blocks in total, and the blocks are all constructed with the same pieces. It's just a matter of whether you're putting something on the left or the right, or the top or the bottom. So very, very simple to do. Jane, who put it together, couldn't believe how fast the whole thing went. And the blocks are big, so boom, 9 blocks and it's done. Next up, as we were approaching fall, it was time to think of something that would be a nice little project to do for the fall, either for Halloween, which obviously has now passed, or fall, which is quickly coming to an end. And that was the pumpkin patch. Now, this was a fun little project that you could make however many blocks that you wanted. The kit comes with enough fabric to make 4 blocks, and you can arrange those in different ways. I do have a tutorial up on my YouTube channel for that particular project. Now, this next quilt is still in keeping with the Keep It Simple September look. And this was the last quilt that I made in September. And that is the Frank Lloyd Wright Bright Windows. So what is really cool about this project is that it had several different large blocks and then some big chunks of fabric, because the main print from this particular line of fabric was just fascinating and amazing. And why cut it into little pieces? You should just use that in nice big chunks. So that I made and quilted that. Got that done by the end of September, and it is available not only in the bright colorway, but there is also a few kits left in the water colorway, which is done with blues and a little purple, all from the Cloud 9 Frank Lloyd Wright collection called March Balloons. Now, as we were approaching October, it was time to think about Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I came up with a quilt called Pink Ribbons. I really have a thing for naming things about ribbons and woven, but that's another story. So with Pink Ribbons, I wanted the look of twisting ribbons in different shades of pink. So you have a light pink, which is the main part of the ribbon, and then the part of the ribbon that turns, so you kind of see the backside, is a darker version of that same print. So this was a lot of fun to put together. This is only available as a kit from Vintage Pink and Green. Patterns are not available other than buying through the kit. And I am planning to rekit this one in some other colors. So stay tuned for that. Now, one of the next quilt that I did still, even though we were in October, still into the simple quilts, and that is Cozy Stripe, which is a Tilda Fabrics pattern. Again, this was one that was originally done in a different collection of fabric, and we had some Jubilee fabric that I thought needed to sing in a quilt. Now, I also pulled some other fabrics from some other collections, including the New Creating Memories, and I love how this turned out. This is another super simple, easy to put together, and boom, you have a quilt. It's also an easy one that you could make a little bit longer, a little bit wider. You know, you could play around with things if you needed to. I did make this one and quilted this one as well, and I love how it turned out. So fun and so quick to make. Now, because it was fall, I also decided that it would be fun to make the Tilda stuffed pumpkins. And I used some of the fabrics from her newest collection, Sanctuary, for that. The pattern calls for the fall or the autumn Creating Memories collection, which we don't carry at the shop, but Sanctuary had just come in, and I thought, ooh, this would be fun. So I made some fun stuffed pumpkins. The patterns are for 3 different sizes. I made all 3. Super simple, so fun, except for stuffing the tiny little stem parts were not fun. But other than that, I think they turned out great. And now as we come into the later part of October, it was time to work on a more complex project, and that was the Berry Wreath quilt. This is also a Tilda Fabrics pattern, again, free on her website, and it uses hibernation. Now, we could no longer get the called for fabric for the background, but I substituted in a chambray that I think looks beautiful. And what is really cool about this quilt is it's all pieced. Everybody who comes into the shop and looks at it thinks it is appliqued. Not a single applique stitch, 100% pieced, from the tiniest berry to the big berries and all the leaves. So this was a super fun one to make. Not simple in so much as that it just had a lot of pieces, because every little berry starts as a square and gets 4 little tiny squares sewn in the corners. And there are a lot of berries in every single block. But all the blocks are the same. So once you get a block, and they're pretty big, it was super easy to put together once you got to the part where they were all blocks. So it just took a lot of organization and a lot of sewing and trimming and pressing. But I think it was well worth it. Now, remember that Ornaments quilt that I spoke of earlier from doing the original one in July for my Jolly in July, and then I did a little bit more complex one? Well, we decided that it would be a fun thing to do to have a class on a holiday project before the holidays really got here. And so I thought, what would be something that is fast, easy, and has the ability to have a variation so that if somebody wanted something that wasn't quite as simple as the original one with just the sort of 9-patch ornaments, they could do what I call the fancy ornaments. And so indeed, I needed to whip up 2 samples, one of the simple and one of the more complex blocks. And so I did. And of course, I had to quilt them to get them all done. So they got quilted before my original fancy one did. Still need to get that fancy one, my fancy one, finished so that I have it for the holidays. Another project I did in Jolly in July were the tree napkins, and I made 2 using the fabric from my friend Victoria from Victoria Bee Design, and I was planning to send them to her. But before I did, I thought, you know what? It would be really nice to have 2 more, maybe in different fabrics, but still her fabrics. And so I had ordered some other fabric of hers, and I put those together. And I think I forgot to take a picture of the new ones that I did, but here are the original ones, and I sent all 4 off to her, and she now has them in time for her holiday hosting. And the last project that I have worked on is another Tilda quilt that I didn't put together, but my friend Jane, who did the Whimsy Quilt, put this one together, and it is the beautiful Paper Birds quilt that is from Tilda Fabrics. It highlights her newest line, Sanctuary, and it's just gorgeous. And I did quilt it for her, and it is now hanging in the shop where we have kits available for that as well. So my friends, you can see I have kept myself quite busy, and I apologize for not having a video out in what seems like ages. It is not that I haven't been filming. I did film. I just didn't get around to editing. And with the holidays approaching, I needed to get all these samples done. So hopefully at this point, we'll be back onto a more regular schedule. And of course, I have released a few tutorials. Links to all of those are in the description below, as well as links to Vintage Pink and Green for the kits, and where available to the Tilda website for the patterns or to my website for my patterns. What do I have planned for the future? Oh, my friends. In between sewing and quilting, I have still been designing. So there are quite a bit of things coming for the new year. And there might even be 1 or 2 that make it before the end of this year. We'll see. And I do have some tutorials coming out, including on the berry wreath quilt. And we'll see. A few others. I hope you have been finding time to do what your favorite hobby is, whether it is quilting or knitting, embroidery, cross stitch, whatever. And who knows, there may be a little non-quilting thing coming very soon, because some of the ladies from our local quilting bee and from my class have expressed interest in some applique, and we're going to combine that with something else. So stay tuned for that. I will keep you all informed. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye.